Moving to El Salvador, let's talk about utilities. How to get water, electricity, internet, and a cell phone plan set up quickly, what companies to deal with, typical costs, and the little hacks to save you a headache. I tested the options so you don't have to. Here's the complete guide. Utilities are the boring stuff that make daily life possible, but in a new country, they can be confusing. I looked at the national water utility, ANDA, the main electricity distributors, the big ISPs, and mobile operators. And we'll walk you step by step through signing up, paying, and troubleshooting. Water, who runs it, and how to get connected. The key players here is the Administración Nacional de Acueductos y Alcantarillados, usually abbreviated to ANDA. They handle the potable water and the sewer services across most municipalities in El Salvador. What you need to know, some quick facts, new connections, and the paperwork. So ANDA publishes specific forms on a Solicitud de Nuevo Servicio, which with the requirements like proof of property ownership, which you get from the CNR, that's the registry for all property ownerships, or your rental contract. So you would have a rental contract. If you're renting here, you have to have a lawyer with a proper contract. Everyone has it. If you don't, then probably it might be a little shady. So just check into that. You'll need your ID, it could be your temporary residency card or a DUI if you're a national coming back, or even your passport, and a location sketch of the property. So many of these processes can start via ANDA's online services. It's on the anda.gov.sv website. Now, for coverage and quality, urban areas like San Salvador and many municipalities have regular services, but there are outages and maybe low pressure or maybe some scheduled maintenance. They still happen, especially in outlying zones. Now, ANDA maintains notices and service updates on its website and social channels. Not all communities have ANDA water 24/7, like ours, for example. We only have 24-hour water on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Now, they say it comes on sometime Tuesday and then it comes on sometime Friday, but we actually watched it one time and it came on at midnight Wednesday morning. So I don't know if it ever really comes on Tuesday, but it definitely comes on all day Wednesday and all day Saturday, because that's only twice a week. So that is why every house in our community has a cisterna, or a cistern in English. If people are living in poor areas, maybe they're using their pila, which is a great big, usually a concrete tank with two plateaus in the side that are shallow you can use to wash dishes or wash your clothes in, and then the tank in the middle is what stores the water. So you fill this up, you scoop water out with a clean bowl, and use that on the other sides to do dishes and laundry, or even to wash yourself for that matter. So when you have a cisterna, that also means you need to have a pump, a bomba, and a pressure tank. So usually they're quite small. Some people also have wells, but without a filtration system, I would not recommend drinking the water. Now, in 2023, I'll give you a little story. In 2023, we visited an orphanage. It was SOS Children's Village in Santa Tecla. And they gave me a cup of coffee. Very nice of them to do that. But before we could even leave after our whole tour of the orphanage, I was already in the bathroom there. So, and like the rest of the day. So I 100% do not recommend drinking the water as it is, unless you want to build up some tolerance, maybe like take a shot glass one day and 2 shot glasses the next day. I don't know. I'm not your doctor, but I would say that if you're traveling here, it'd be really good for you to have a bottle of charcoal pills. Now, I've used these sometime recently. I felt really sick to my stomach. I went to the bathroom like, oh, I got charcoal pills. I'm going to take a bunch of them. I think it's like 5 at a time. And then every time you go to the bathroom, take another bunch. And then before you know it, it's all gone. So if you're traveling here, I would suggest charcoal tablets. Of course, I'm not your doctor. So, disclaimer, I'm not your doctor. However, if you're taking other things like vitamins and stuff, you don't want to take them with your charcoal pills, or you're not going to get the benefit of those vitamins, because charcoal will just suck up everything that's in your gut basically at that time and help you eliminate it, which is why it works well for detoxing from something you've eaten that didn't sit well with you. So other reasons to not drink the water here would include some old distribution pipes, right? You don't know that water's traveling really far, going through some things that may be very old or deteriorated, and also storage in rooftop tanks. Now, like I said, we have a cisterna. Ours is actually in the ground, so it's a bit cooler, but in our old house, it was on a tower outside. So when you have the water sitting in the sun all day and you're only getting it revised twice a week, and otherwise it's just sitting there for several days, that means it could be growing stuff. So it started out clean-ish. They do put chlorine in it, but then it's sitting in your tank. So again, you gotta be careful. When we stayed in our Airbnb, they had 2 huge tanks in our community, which I think that was the drinking water for everyone in the community. So we didn't each individually have a cisterna, but the complex did. That means it's sitting there for I don't know how long. I don't know how long it takes to refresh it or refill it or whatever. So yeah, you just don't drink the water. So people here buy bottled water. I'm told local people do drink the water, and especially Santa Ana. I don't know if they have really good processing or whatever they do there, but I would not do that if I were you, especially if you're traveling and don't want to get sick. I was told the water wasn't drinkable for 2 reasons, actually. Bacteria is just one of those reasons. The other one was heavy metals. Oh my gosh, this fly. Go away, fly. The other one was heavy metals. So obviously, you can't get that out with chlorine. So I would be weary about doing that long term. I need a fly swatter. Now, we just got a water filtration system installed, and it has 6 filters. We have one for sediment, one is for the chemicals like the chlorine or fluoride. Now, side note, I don't know if the water here is fluorinated. I didn't even know the water was chlorinated until I filled up our tub. I'm like, oh yeah, I smell chlorine coming off the hot water especially. Now, one of our filters is for the heavy metals. Like I said, that's important. I don't want that in my liver. And one is just like a carbon one for the taste. That's the charcoal filter to make it taste good. And the last one actually remineralizes the water. So that after we took all that crap out, now we're going to put the good stuff back in, right? So some people get ones that are like a 2 or 3 filter system with a UV light. Now, we didn't have electricity under our sink, so we couldn't put the UV light there. I didn't want to go around and rewire a plug for under the sink. That's just crazy. So ours is with Plus Pura, Pura, and it was for $251. Now, we were buying the 5-gallon jugs of water. Cristal in our community is $285, and the other one is Alpina, that's $270 per 5-gallon jug. And we were going through, I would always estimate $62 a month. So paying $251 now, we'd have that basically paid off in 4 months, leaving the rest of the year free. Now, I'm told there's a yearly annual maintenance on this for $110. I'm assuming, I don't know for sure, but I'm assuming that's when they change those cartridges out. And, we pay someone to come out and do it for us, right? So that's $110 a year to have that refreshed. Now, for ANDA, the cost and billing, bills are municipal and ANDA based. Some households supplement with cisternas, with water tanks, or a private tanker truck when the service is really intermittent. And I met one of these on my trip to Talnike. It was very terrifying that this truck drove out these roads. But if you rent, check whether the landlord or the tenant pays the ANDA. So for a practical tip, always ask for the ultimo recibo, which is like your last bill for ANDA or your electricity or whatnot, when you're renting, so you can verify that the account is in good standing, and you can also see what the average usage is. Now, I did not do that, but I was fine. I'm not saying this, you'll be fine everywhere. It depends on your landlord, and if the tenants before you didn't pay the bill, you're going to be stuck paying their bill. Now, in our last 2 rental situations, the bills stayed in the owner's name, and our ANDA is actually subsidized here. It is less than $4. We've never paid $4. It's $3 something, $3.50, $3.60 a month. The subsidy is usually for about $10. So even if you weren't getting subsidized, it should be under $20 for your water usage. Now, this again didn't really include us using it for drinking water because we just got that installed. I don't significantly see in the bill going up for that, But some people ask. I always did brush my teeth with the ANDA water, and shower and all that stuff. And I also used the ANDA water to rinse my rice out in the sink before cooking it. I would drain all that off, and then I put the potable water in to cook it. So it's not like it's poisonous. Like I said, local people do drink it. But again, if there's bacteria in there, especially if yours has been stored in a tank, the chlorine off gases if it's sitting in a tank for a long time, especially in the sun. So, just be very cautious. I would always drink bottled water if you're here, or if you know that the place has, like ours has a drinking water spout in the kitchen sink, oh, that's the one that has the filtration system with it. Now, another thing is the water here is not super cold. So if you're thinking, oh, I'm going to get a filtration system and get some nice ice cold water, that's not going to happen. You're going to have to put that stuff in the fridge because that is not, I wouldn't say it's warm, but people here shower without hot water. So it's not freezing cold. It's lukewarm, we'd say, especially if you have a tank outside in the sun and the water's been sitting there all day and you're taking it's actually kind of a warm shower at that point. So If you have your tank in the ground like we have now, you're not getting a warm shower. You really need a hot water heater or you're going to be chilly. So how to sign up? If you're buying new property that does not currently have a service, gather the documents you need. One would be the proof of ownership or your lease. Now, if you have a lease, I would assume you already have water. I would think that'd be very strange that you're renting a house that doesn't have water already. The most time you're going to use these steps is when you are buying land that does not currently have service. So you need your proof of ownership, which you get from the CNR. You would need your ID, that's your temporary residency card, your DUI, or your passport, and your NIT if applicable. Your NIT is your national tax ID number, and a location sketch of your property. And you go to like I said, you go to the anda.gov.sv website for that, and you start the Nuevo Servicio online, or you can go to the local ANDA office and request an inspection if it's required. You would pay a connection fee and you'd wait for the activation. Bring receipts and photos of the property if you're requested to do that, and you'll just follow the process that they tell you they're going to do for your area. Now, for paying the ANDA bill, when we first got our first water bill, which is funny because we don't really have a mailbox, they have this little box that's attached to the gate of our old property, and just randomly opened it up one day. Oh, there's a bill in here. I don't know how long it was there because I actually think our first bill was a double bill because it wasn't paid the first time because we never got anything on paper. Anyway, so I think it was $7. That one is for 2 months. So I'm like, okay, I got a bill. I don't know how to pay it. So on the bill had some QR codes you could scan. So I scanned it with my phone and it opened up WhatsApp. And it was the ANDA WhatsApp and it was an automated menu. So what I do, I just say, hola. So then it brings up the automated menu. And it will say, what do you want to do? And I'm like, oh, I want to pay. Pagar mi factura. So I pay the bill and then it would say, put in your account number. So I look at the bill. Oh, the account number's at the top. Put the account number in and it'd say, is this the correct information? Usually like it had the owner's name, the address, that kind of stuff. I say, yep, that's correct. And I would usually ask for an email address. So I just put mine in so I can get a copy that I had paid it. So that would come up with a link to Payway. And I would click on that link on my phone. Payway would open up on a browser and I type in my credit card number, my name, the expiry date, that kind of stuff. And it would already be pre-populated with the company and the amount I need to pay. And it would say, do you accept? I accepted. And then I would get an email to say that the bill was paid. So that's how you pay the ANDA. I don't know another way other than going to the ANDA office to pay. Maybe you could take that to the bank and the bank can help you pay that as well. But that was by far the easiest way to do it. If you have, a credit card, which I assume most people have a credit card, or a debit card with a credit card number. Both those things work. Now, electricity providers, new connections, outages, and that ship at sea. Who provides electricity in El Salvador? Well, electricity in El Salvador is divided into generation, which is the producing of the electricity, the transmission of electricity, and the distribution, and that's basically what homeowners or renters would be dealing with. So the two main distributors, depending on where you live, your provider will be either AES El Salvador or DelSur. Now, I am told that you do not get to choose which electricity provider you have. Your neighborhood determines whether you get DelSur or AES. However, I don't know why this is, but in our old house in this same complex, we had AES. And here we have DelSur. Now we're not even a quarter of a kilometer from the other house, and it is the exact same complex. So I don't know if when certain houses were being built that it was AES that came in to do the electricity connections, and then the next time they built more houses, it was DelSur. I'm not sure. But I know it's based on geography, but geography doesn't have to be very far apart, apparently, because they have two providers. And this is the funny thing. Sometimes AES will have a power outage. One time our neighbor came by, walked by, and goes, oh, I was looking for somebody that had power because they didn't have power. They had AES, and we're on DelSur, and we still have power. So it's bizarre. In Canada, there's no option. You just have the one electricity provider in your area, and when someone's lost power, like your neighbor, that usually means you're going to lose power too. Maybe down the road they have power, but literally we're not even a quarter kilometer away from our old house. We're still in the same complex. So it's kind of crazy to me, but that's how it works here. Now, when you're renting or buying, check the last bill to see which of the company services your area and also to see, again, your average consumption. You can get an idea what's going on. I always thought DelSur was more expensive. I don't know if that's true or not. So, how to get electricity connected. If you're moving into an existing home, most of the time you just would bring your lease, show your ID, which could be your passport, your DUI, or your temporary residency card, and request a transfer of the account if that is what your landlord wants. Ask them first, because both places we lived in, those bills stayed in the landlord's name. I guess I never really asked. I just paid it. It's in their name. But anyway, I'm just saying we never changed it. It's not necessary, apparently. But if your property has never had power, or you need like a new meter or something, these are the steps you'll need. Again, you'll need your ID, proof of ownership. Again, that's through the CNR. That's where they register all properties. Possibly you need your NIT, your location details. There may be an inspection. There will definitely be a connection fee. And the wait could be several days to maybe a couple of weeks. There are some new YouTubers that I found the other day, and they do a really good job breaking down these steps for a new connection. Their channel is called Retiring on 1BTC. Go over there after you watch this video and show them some love. They give a guide for SEGIT, which is the Electrical Safety Authority in El Salvador. It's SEGIT. Also, they have opening a new electricity case with DelSur, because that was who they had in their area. Their first and second DelSur inspections, buying and installing an electric pole. Now this I find really interesting, because in Canada, if you had a piece of land that was really off the main beaten road kind of thing, and you need to put a pole in your property, you pay to put the pole in, and then the electrical company takes possession of the pole. That doesn't work like that here. If I'm on a piece of land and my neighbor has a pole and I want to use his pole to get the electricity to me, I need to pay him for the use of his pole, because it's still his pole. Nobody owns a pole but this guy on the land. So this is really different. El Salvador really does a really good job of property rights here. I have to say that. Now, you get to choose between 110 volt or 220 service, and there's like a final approval, payment, and timelines. Now, if you're going to do this remotely, I would suggest, because many people do this, they buy a piece of land on a trip, they're here, they go back home, they do whatever they have to do there to sell the properties, whatever, and then they try to get stuff going while they're not here. So if you're going to do that, like get the electricity set up, for example, use a lawyer and give him power of attorney to do that for you remotely. Of course, get someone you trust. If you don't know someone to trust, you can always reach out to people like me and ask for contacts or whatever, but that's really important. Give someone power of attorney so they can do all the signing that has to be done to get your electricity hooked up. So next time you come visit, you have power. Do the same for water if you're doing that. So both AES and DelSur have online service portals and call centers and WhatsApp, of course. Now, again, like I said, we've had both. Now, AES is like the ANDA. I would scan a barcode, open WhatsApp, say hola, and come up with a thing. Do you want to pay the bill? I want to pay the bill. How do you want to pay the bill? I'm going to do this, that, and the other thing. And then you go through, and a payway link will generate. And again, it takes you to a browser where you type in your credit card information, expiry date, that kind of stuff, your name, email, whatever it is. And then you do accept, and it has already populated with AES and the amount already. So you just got to do pay, and it comes off your card. Now, what I like about DelSur, I didn't know this till we moved here, because I didn't have, the only time I used DelSur would be at our Airbnb. Anyway, I didn't pay the bill directly. The Airbnb hostess did. That's another story. But anyway, with the DelSur, the bill is actually bigger. It's folded. It's glued shut, whatever. You open it up. At the bottom of the bill, there's a barcode. And it wasn't until I moved here, the landlord said something like, oh, I only ever used it from my banking app or something like that. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. So I open up my banking app with Banco Agricola, and there's a part in there where it says, do you want to pay a service? So I click on pay a service, and it says, do you have a bill or do you not have a bill? Con factura, sin factura. So I do, yeah, I have a bill. So I with con factura. And when I do that, it has a little camera option. I push the camera button, and I scan that barcode at the bottom. It auto-populates with DelSur and the amount, and then I just do pay. And I don't have to type in any credit card information or my name, email, nothing like that. It's much more seamless. I really enjoy paying the DelSur better than I enjoy paying the AES. Now, here's the crazy part. Part of your electricity in El Salvador is generated by a floating power plant at sea off the coast near Acajutla. There's an LNG to electricity project operated by Energía del Pacífico. So here's how it works. Liquefied natural gas arrives by tanker. It's stored and then converted back to gas offshore. And then the gas fuels the floating power plant, and electricity is then sent into the national grid. So this facility produces roughly 380 megawatts, which is a significant chunk of the country's power. And that's one of the reasons electricity reliability has improved in the recent years here in El Salvador. So where does electricity come from overall? Well, El Salvador's energy mix, we'll say, includes hydroelectric, geothermal, thermal plants, solar, and this natural gas floating LNG project. One key government entity in generation is the Comisión Ejecutiva Hidroeléctrica del Río Lempa, which is the CEL. But as a homeowner, you deal with AES or DelSur, or there may be some other smaller ones I don't know about, but those are the main ones. So people ask about reliability, outages, and that kind of stuff. How is it here? So in urban areas, I'd say it's generally very stable. Rural areas, I hear it's more variable, but I've not experienced that personally. Now, during storm season, if there's a really, like a lot of wind or thunder and lightning, there might be a little outage here and there, but honestly, we've had maybe like 2 minutes that goes out. It basically flickers and comes back on. So both AES and DelSur published their scheduled maintenance outages. So we did have, in our other house, we had a whole day outage that AES had planned. After we had the landslide, they had to remove a pole or something. So that was like a planned outage. You can go to their websites and you can check those out. But if you work remotely, you could consider getting UPS for your router and maybe another battery backup system or inverter plus batteries or even a generator. Any of those for your router and maybe your desktop. So what about the cost? Electricity is generally more expensive than Canada. So my last bill here was $91.91. Now that's for 341 kilowatts. That's making about 26 cents per kilowatt hour. Now that includes all the delivery charge and everything with the bill. So it's not just the electricity charge, there's a delivery charge and a couple other things. Now, however, in Canada, I have actually never had a bill that low, even though the kilowatt hour rate is lower. Even right now when nobody's in my house and it's just the furnace and the fridges, whatever is plugged in, which is not a lot, I've never had a bill that low in Canada. So I don't know, but the kilowatt hour rate is higher here. So go figure. It's not like we don't have anything plugged in this house. I mean, we all have computers, phones, you know, the TV, the lights, the washing machine, the fridge, the freezer. Our hot water heater is also electric. So I don't know. To me, it's cheaper, but the kilowatt hour rate is actually more expensive. So maybe because the Canadian one, when I'm thinking about the rate, it wasn't like I took the whole bill and then divided it by the usage. Maybe that's the difference. Yeah, maybe I should check into a bill from Canada and see if that's why that's because I've never had a bill under $100 in Canada. Just that never happens. Because you know why it never happens? Because the delivery charge to my house is $60 by itself, without any of the fun taxes they have in Canada, like the tax on the tax. They have the GST or HST, and then they have the carbon tax on top of that. Like I love how they tax the tax in Canada. Anyway. Whew, Charity, calm down. That's a whole other rant. Utilities in Canada's. Oh my, that's okay. I don't want to think about that. Okay, moving on. But okay, I'm going to tell you this right now. Usage is very dependent on air conditioning. So it dramatically increases your bill. So I've told this story before, but if you've never seen this on one of my other videos, I'll repeat it, okay? Our first Airbnb, we stayed there for 6 weeks. So we actually arrived on the day the billing cycle started. So we were there for the complete billing cycle. They had 3 mini split air conditioning units. We had one in our bedroom, one that Annika and Willem were sharing, and one in Lawrence's bedroom. We let them run 24/7, although I thought I was good because I had it set to like 26 degrees. So I thought maybe just the fan was running 24. Anyway, that wasn't the case because the bill came in and it was DelSur. This is why I had in my mind it was more expensive. And it was over $600 for 1 month for electricity with just our regular stuff and these 3 air conditioning units running. So keep that in mind if you're going to have AC and if you're going to keep it running a long time, it can be very expensive. Now, I heard that there may be different air conditioning units that use less power. Maybe if you're on 220 instead of 110, maybe need to do more investigating into that. But definitely look, if you're going to buy an air conditioning unit, look at the energy guide of it because they're definitely not all made equal. I'm quite certain about that. Also, lower consumption households might actually qualify for government subsidies. If you remember from the news way back, I think it was in January last year in 2025, it could have been December, I think it was January, Bukele said he was actually going to pay $80 of everyone's electric bills. Now, what happened was we didn't get that because our bill in December was, I don't know, it was like 40 something, but it was an estimate. So when the bill came out in January, it was over 100, because really it should have been about 70 per month, which made it, we would have qualified then, but because one was low and one was high, and the high one was when they were going to subsidize if it was 80 or under, we never got that. So, but there may be subsidies in areas or programs or different things that go on, and if you have a lower consumption, they will pay that. We did get the water one subsidized that month because, again, it was only like $3 or something. Let's talk about home internet, the main ISPs, speed, and what to expect. So major home ISPs in El Salvador include Claro and Tigo, both offering fiber and bundled TV and home phone or VoIP packages. Other local options and regional providers exist too, and of course there is Starlink. So what to expect? Fiber to the home is increasingly common in urban areas. Claro and Tigo both advertise fiber home packages. Actually, it's kind of better than what we had in Canada, to be honest, but we were rural in Canada. So speeds that scale from tens of megabits per second to 200 to 300 plus megabits per second in some promos. So check provider coverage maps before you move in. So we have both Tigo and Claro in our complex available to us, but not everyone has both. So there's also promo and pricing bundles. ISPs frequently offer promotional monthly pricing, sometimes even bundling TV or streaming services, like they'll say, including HBO or Disney Plus or Prime or something like that, included in for so many months for free, or some discounts for just your first few months of service. Now, watch out for price changes after the promo period. I got Tigo in October 2025 for 100 megabits per second, and I paid $32.98. But they have a package on their website for 150 megabytes per second, so 50 more, for $26.99 for less money. And I am told that I cannot get that because it's only for new customers. Does that sound right to you? I don't think so. I'm thinking about leaving Tigo, going to Claro, and maybe going back to Tigo. I don't know. We'll see. I'm on the fence now about Tigo because of this. And if you work for Tigo or know anyone who can fix this issue, please get in touch with me. YouTube at hagenards.com. So mobile broadband, if fiber isn't available, there's home LTE and 4G, via your SIM and a router kind of thing from mobile providers. It is a valid alternative and won't be the best. But, I know nothing about those part because we have the fiber. Most expats who live remotely, though, they get Starlink, as they can use that if they move and go to a different rental. So how to sign up? Check the coverage area, use the Claro and Tigo online coverage checkers. So go to their websites or call their sales office on WhatsApp numbers. Put El Salvador there and you'll find the right web page, and then you can go, and there's usually a WhatsApp link at the bottom. You can click on it and start talking to somebody. Now you can request an installation appointment. I did that using WhatsApp. You have to have your ID ready and your address, obviously. You need to know where you want them to come. I didn't have to provide any lease or anything like that. They didn't ask that information as far as I remember. It's been a while. Possibly they did. I'm not sure. So what I actually did with my lease agreement is I took pictures of it and kept it in my phone as a series of photos. So if people needed to see it, I just would send it through WhatsApp or whatever. So I'm not sure if they required it or not. But, installation can require a short on-site visit to run fiber if you don't already have fiber there. Test the speeds on your day one, do a speed test, and keep your installation ticket if you need to escalate something. If, you're guaranteed a certain amount, you do a speed test, you don't get it, you have your ticket from installation, reach out to them to make sure that everything's working. We only had one issue one day. There just wasn't internet one day. We didn't know what happened. So I reached out to them like, we don't have internet. And they did something on their end and it was like, come back up. So I don't know what that was. There'll also be a connection fee unless there's some sort of promotion. Now listen to this. The shorter the term that you sign up for, then the more you pay. So when we first moved to our other house, we didn't know how long we were going to stay. So we just signed a 6-month lease. Now, because we signed a 6-month lease, I didn't want to sign a longer term with Tigo. So I signed a 6-month term with Tigo. Now, because we signed a 6-month term with Tigo, they charged me $50 to install it. And they think they said if it was going to be for 9 months or 12 months or 24 months, whatever, it would have been less. Like, I don't know, maybe 24 months is even free. Who knows? So keep that in mind. And we had to pay for that installation a month later. Like we got it on around the end of September. I don't remember. I think we moved in on the 27th or something. So they were there either that day or before that day. And we didn't pay him right there. We only paid on the first month later, like a month later. We actually didn't pay till November 1st. So other than that one day of whatever reason it was just down, I haven't had any noticeable interruptions in our service. And when we moved from the other house to here, they actually came that day to hook everything up. And the guy had noticed some rattling in our router, so he actually gave us a new one with no cost. So it was a really easy thing to do, to switch between one house to the other. For our Tigo internet, because I also have my Tigo phones and stuff, I have the Tigo app on my phone. And the home service is one of the listed devices. I have me and my husband and my kids, and then I have the home internet service on there. So I just click that, and I go to pay the bill, and then I put in my credit card number once. It's like my debit card number, and it remembers it. So it says, you want to use that? Yeah, I want to use that, and it just pays like that. And if you pay it early, it usually is not the first of the month. It comes out like the 3rd or 4th or something. And if you pay within, I think it's 7 days, they give you like 100 minutes to use on your phone or something. I don't know. I don't really use the phone part a lot. And I don't think it's for long distance. It could be. I don't know. I also don't use the phone to call long distance because it's still my Canadian number. If I need to call somebody in Canada, I just use that number. So there's some benefit. Anyway, if you pay on time or pay early, then they give you a little bonus. What my friend had told me is that with Claro, you can actually pay with Bitcoin. That would be the only difference. Tigo used to be able to take Bitcoin. When they made it, not official legal tender anymore, Tigo took that off and never put it back on. Let's talk about cell phones or mobiles in some countries. We have prepaid versus postpaid and who the main operators are. Now, major mobile operators are Movistar, Digicel, Claro, and Tigo. Now, these carriers all offer prepaid and postpaid plans with data bundles, apps included, and sometimes social media or data promos. So market reports show a competitive market with several operators that are active in El Salvador. In Canada, we do not have this luxury. Seriously, cell phones are very expensive and the competition's very slim. Some quick comparison points here. Prepaid, of course, is easiest for short-term stays. You buy a SIM card. Often an ID is required when you're activating the SIM card. So I think we used our passports. And you top that up at any of the tiendas, kiosks, or via the app itself. And the SIM cards are usually $1. Like usually ours are all $1 each. And you can buy data packages on that too. Now, postpaid would include like larger data allowances, or if you're going to get a cell phone with them, you're going to do financing and billing like a 24-month contract. You want that new iPhone, whatever the number is now, I don't even know. And you want to get, a 24-month contract with them so that that financing of the phone is on your bills. That's the postpay option. And of course, you need ID for that. Often you need a NIT, and sometimes you need proof of your address as well. Now, coverage. Major carriers have good coverage in all the urban areas. Rural coverage varies, so check each of the carriers' coverage map or ask locals what they're using in the area. Now, there is a spot in the Los Churros Highway where you are in like a complete valley. It's near where the landslide was last year, where they put the shipping containers up. If you're from here, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And if I am in stop and go traffic there, sometimes I lose my signal when I'm playing music on my Alexa. So if I'm driving through straight though, their Alexa, maybe they have some better buffering power. I don't know. I don't lose the music. So there is something where the mountains are so high and you're in that valley that sometimes the signal doesn't come through very good. So there is some dead spots in places because of the terrain. Now, how do you get that SIM card in your plan? First, you have to bring an ID, either do your passport. For the postpaid, you need to bring proof of address and your NIT if required. You can buy prepaid SIMs at airports, shops, or carrier stores. You can activate and load credit on them via the vendor or like a carrier app, like the Tigo app on my phone. And you just look for the Movistar, Digicel, Tigo, or Claro signs at any of the little tiendas around, and there you can get a SIM card really easy. When we first arrived here, Stan already had the 2 SIM cards for us. He used his passport to activate them on our phones, but it wasn't until this is a strange thing with iPhones. When we first moved here, even when we were visiting here, I changed the location on my phone to say El Salvador. But the way iPhone works, if you do not have a Salvadorian credit card attached to your phone, then there's a second place in your phone where you have to change your location, and you can only do that when you have a Salvadorian credit card. So it wasn't until I got my bank account that I could go into my phone, change my credit card to be my Salvadorian bank account, and then I was able to change the other part of my phone that had the location stored where I actually get the App Store for El Salvador. And without the App Store for El Salvador, I couldn't get the Tigo app on my phone. I used to have to use the browser. But once I was able to do that, I could put the Tigo app on my phone directly. It's an Apple thing. It wasn't the case with the Androids. So some practical tips, costs, and troubleshooting. Always ask landlords which utilities are included and get copies of the last bills. That'll just save you any disputes. Also, if they want you to put the bill in your name or keep it as theirs, you need to ask those questions. And for backups, you might want UPS for your router and a water storage tank. Those are lifesavers during outages. Because if we didn't have power, which again is pretty reliable here, but our pump also would not work. So having some 5-gallon jug or something you're keeping some water in could come in handy, especially if you're in an area that is known for more outages based on terrain or weather. If you have a cisterna and a pump, you could use actually a UPS for your pump so that you always have the electricity there too. That's another option. For emergencies, you might want to save the ANDA, AES, or DelSur's, or even your ISP's customer service stuff. Phone numbers on your phone, or had them in WhatsApp already, so you can always reach out to somebody. Like I said, we only lost internet that one day. I had the chat we had for the installation. I still had it on my phone. I reached out to them there, and we were able to get that resolved within like 10, 15 minutes or something. Shop around for bundle deals. It could even be a bundle with your internet and your cell phone. Or if you want a home phone, like a VoIP phone or extra TV packages or this kind of stuff, they do have bundles around. So shop around, find out what's in your area. If you have both Tigo and Claro, for example, then go on their websites and see what the best offers are right now. Because like I said, I'm paying more now than when we moved and the landlord switched to our other house. He moved and went to Tigo as well, and they get a better deal than we did. So I'm like, what? That makes no sense. So, and now they say you have to be a new customer to get the deal. That's not good PR. Not good PR. Shop around and check if there's going to be a price hike. If there's if it's good for 6 months, but after 6 months you pay the regular price or something like that, check that as well on these bundle deals. So for quick FAQ question, how long does it take to get your water, electricity, or internet hooked up? Typical timelines for water, electricity accounts transfers can be like a few days or a few weeks depending on inspections. If you need to have inspections, your internet fiber installs usually within I think we had ours within a few days. Maybe if you're out in the country, it might be longer or whatnot, but ours was just a couple of days. So you need to check which one is available in your area. Again, like I said, look for bundles and stuff, and then also ask how long would it take to install. What if my landlord does not want to transfer the accounts into my name? Well, then you ask for the last bill and get a written confirmation of who pays, in your signed rental agreement, to see who pays those bills for your water, electricity. Utilities might look boring, but they're the backbone of daily life, right? And a few minutes of paperwork now saves big headaches later on. If you found this content helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you're interested in more things about El Salvador, we have a weekly Monday night meeting. Check the description below for all the details for the link for the Monday night meeting. It's at 7 p.m. El Salvador time. Or if you'd like to be part of our WhatsApp group where we just chat about anything and everything El Salvador, and maybe a few extra topics, send me an email with your WhatsApp number to youtube@hagenars.com and I will add you to our group. I post weekly videos on Saturday at 6 p.m. El Salvador time, and I will see you in the next one.
Don't forget to hit the like button.